2.3 is going to be about subtracting integers. And what they do is they take the concept that we learned on Tuesday about adding integers. So if you remember on Tuesday to add integers with the same sign, so if they're both positive or both negative, you honestly just add them and then give them the sign that they share. So if you have -2 and -3, it's -5. If they differ by a sign, so one's positive, one's negative, it's really actually subtracting, and you give it the sign of the bigger number. So subtracting, how the book teaches you is, hey, we can actually turn every subtraction problem into an addition problem, because you guys already know how to do addition. So how do we do subtraction? It's adding the opposite. So that's what this first part's showing you. It's just saying if A and B are two numbers, then A subtracting B is the same thing as A adding B's opposite. So add the opposite of B. And it gets a little tricky, so again, I'll try my best to kind of distinguish it. So here, they don't think of this as minus B, they think of this as A subtract a positive B, okay? A positive A subtract a positive B is A plus, what's the opposite of a positive B? A negative B, okay? And at this point, they say, well, you should know how to add these. Whenever you have opposite signs, you actually are subtracting them, and then you'd give it the sign of the larger number. So again, I'm going to try it, like for number 1 example. Do we really need to do it with number 1? No, we know how to do 13 minus 4, right? What is 13 minus 4 if you have to count with your fingers or whatever you need to do? 9, right? So we know 9 is the answer, but I want to show you how it works with this new rule, okay? What they do is they say, okay, the front number stays the same. 13 stays the same. And then we change the subtraction sign to plus the opposite of 4. You guys see what I did there? So the subtraction sign changed to plus the opposite of 4. And then at this point, we've changed it to an addition problem from Tuesday. How do you add numbers that have opposite signs? You do the subtraction, right? 13 minus 4 is 9. And which one's the bigger of the two? The 13, and it's positive. So let's see if we can do it with 2. And with 2, again, I'm going to do it, but then I'm going to tell you the Molly way of how I kind of think of doing it, all right? So the rule is always keep the front number the same. So on number 2, we're going to keep -8 the same. And then instead of subtracting a positive 2, we're going to add the opposite, or a -2, okay? So again, it's kind of hard because you want to think of this as -2. No, it's minus or subtracting a positive 2. So what's the opposite of a positive 2? A -2. What's the rule from Tuesday about adding signs that are the same? You actually add them, okay? So what's 8 plus 2, guys? 10. And then what's the sign going to be? Negative, because they share that negative sign. All right, what's the Molly way? I just think of take away. Take away, okay? So if you're $8 in debt and then you take away another $2, are you going up and out of the hole? No, you're going more in debt. So if you're $8 in debt and you take another way $2, guess where you are? $10 in debt. So that's kind of, I still kind of think money, and I just think subtraction of take away. So some of you are very methodical. You're like, I get Tuesday. I know if I have opposite signs, I'm subtracting, and I get the sign of the bigger number. If they have the same signs, I'm adding, and I'm giving the number they share. If you like that way, try your darndest to make this new way of subtraction make sense to you, okay? All right, number 3, keep the front number the same always. So 11. And then the minus changes to adding the opposite. So what's the opposite of a -15? A positive 15. And like I said, some of you guys have had teachers before, wherever you have the 2 negatives back to back like that, they just change that to a big plus sign. That's what they're doing. You're taking away the opposite of -15. So we'll just end up with 11 plus 15, or 26, and the signs are the same and they're both positive. So how does Molly think of this? I think of it as you have $11, but then you take away $15 of debt. If you take away debt, you're gaining money back, right? And so it's $11, take away $15 that you owe, you now have $26 because you don't owe those $15 anymore. Let's look at number 4. The front number always stays the same, so -9 is going to stay -9, and then the subtraction changes to adding the opposite. What's the opposite of -1? Positive 1. From Tuesday, we learned that when we add two numbers that have different signs, we really subtract. So what's 9 minus 1? 8. But what is 8's sign going to be? Negative. Why? Because the 9's the bigger, okay? And it's kind of the same idea. You're $9 in debt, but you take away at least $1 of your debt. Are you out of the hole yet? No, but you're kind of moving that direction. So now instead of owing $9, you only owe 8. All right? Guys, examples 5 through 7 are the exact same thing. We're just subtracting, okay? So 6 minus 9, the front number always stays the same, 6. And then the subtraction changes to the opposite. So what's the opposite of 9? Negative 9. When you add two numbers with different signs, what are we really doing? Subtracting. So 9 minus 6 gives us what? 3. And it's going to be negative, exactly, because the 9's the bigger and it was the negative number. Again, think of money. You have $6 and then you take away $9. What happens? $6 gets you to 0, but then you go $3 in the hole. You go past what you had. Negative 14. Negative 14 stays the same. The subtraction changes to the opposite of 5, which would be negative 5, okay? When you have the same sign, what do? Plus them, you got it. So 14 plus 5 is 19, but it's really going to be negative 19 because they shared that negative sign. Again, $14 in debt, and then you take away $5 more, you're now $19 in debt. 7. The front number stays the same, negative 3. The subtraction changes to the add to the opposite. So what's the opposite of negative 4? Positive 4. When you have opposite signs, you subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. Is it going to be positive or negative? Positive, because the 4 is the bigger and it's positive. Whew, okay? $3 in debt, and you take away $4 of debt. You've taken away your $3 in debt and actually gained $1. So you're at positive 1. Are we okay? Okay, like I said, I kind of like how they teach it because you get methodical with Tuesday's lesson, that 2.2. And if you get that, you're like, okay, I just have this extra step of changing it to addition problem. But after that, they all match, okay? Do you have to do it this way where you change each one? No, if you're number sense and you just get it, that's fine. Show me your answer. All right, A is going to be the same thing, but we actually have to set up the problem. So we have to make sure we know which number goes in front, which number goes in back. It says subtract 7 from negative 3. So we're taking 7 from negative 3. So how should we set this up? You got it. Negative 3 subtract 7. Because we're taking 7 away from negative 3. All right? At that point, it could be problems 1 through 7 that we just did above. Okay? So let's rewrite this as an addition problem. The front number stays the same. And then we're going to add the opposite of 7, which is negative 7. When you have the same signs, what do? You add them, right? And that sign stays the same. So you're already $3 in debt, and you take away another $7. You're where? $10 in debt. Okay. So it's not too horrible when you just have two numbers, but what are they going to throw at you in this section? And then, like, I think it's either 2.5 or 2.6 is a bunch thrown at you at once. So we're going to have to remember order of operations. With addition and subtraction, remember you just move left to right. So just worry about 2 at a time, get that answer, then throw the third one, get that answer, then throw the fourth one, and so forth. So in this one, notice we have 4, oops, let me move it so we can see it. Notice we have 4 numbers going on. We have to move left to right. So we're going to do the 7 minus 8. We're going to concentrate on that first. So I'm going to rewrite it as we've been doing, okay? 7 stays the same, and we rewrite this as what? Plus what? Negative. You got it. So what's that answer going to be?
15.
Nope, because we have opposite signs. 1, but not 1, but negative 1. Right? When you have opposite signs, you actually find the difference between the two. So how far away is 8 from 7? 1. But which one's more negative? The 8. So again, think of it as you had $7, but then you added $8 of debt. Woo, you plummeted in the hole $1. But what do we still have behind it? All this stuff, right? So let me go ahead and rewrite this as a plus. Plus what? What's the opposite of negative 5? Positive 5. Okay, let's focus on him. What do you do when signs are opposite? Subtract. What's the difference between 5 and 1? 4. Is it going to be a positive 4 or negative 4? I already heard it. It's positive 4 because the 5 is positive. Who do we still need to bring down? Let's make this arrow even extra long, okay? When I bring him down, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite him as an addition problem, right? We're going to add what? Negative 1. When you have opposite signs, what do? Subtract. What's the difference between 4 and 1? 3. Is it going to be a positive 3 or negative 3? Positive 3 because the 4 is bigger. So what I did, guys, is I started with the first two and rewrote that as an addition problem, and we got that answer, okay? Then I brought down the next number and wrote it as an addition problem, and we got that answer. And then I brought the next number down and wrote it as an addition problem. So our final answer is 3. Are there any questions on that front page? And those that are coming in late, you can steal it from your neighbor, or remember I am recording this so we can always grab it from the my math lab. All right, 10 guys, the exact same idea. We're just going to move left to right, but now they're throwing in addition and subtraction. So remember addition, you don't need to change it. Addition stays addition. So notice these first two things, we can just do the problem as is, right? Whenever you are adding numbers with opposite signs, we're really what? Subtracting. So what's the difference between 12 and 7? 5. And is it going to be positive 5 or negative 5? Negative. Is that okay? Because that 12 is the bigger and it's negative. Go ahead and bring down this negative 3, but as we bring it down, let's rewrite it as an addition problem. We're going to add the opposite of 3. What's the opposite of 3? Negative 3. What do you do when they have the same signs? You actually add them, right? So if you're $5 in debt and you add another $3 in debt, you're still $8 in debt. So negative 8, absolutely. All right, last one. We're going to bring down this subtract negative 8. But remember our rule is you change the subtraction to a plus, and then you add the opposite. What's the opposite of negative 8? 8. 0, exactly. Remember on Tuesday we learned anytime you add a number to its opposite, they cancel each other out. Okay? And so if you're $8 in debt, but then you gain $8, you're able to pay off your debt, but you're just sitting right at 0. Yeah. Caitlin, are you trying to catch up? Basically, the rule is with subtraction is they say you can write any subtraction problem as an addition problem, but you add its opposite. So right here, instead of thinking minus a positive 3, just add a negative 3, and then use the rules that we learned on Tuesday. Instead of subtracting a negative 8, add its opposite, a positive 8, and then use the rules that we learned on Tuesday. 11 and 12 are the exact same idea, guys, except for they're just making sure we know, again, how to plug things in first and know what operations are happening. So both of these have a subtraction problem. So let's see what's going on here. They want us to take x, subtract y, if x was negative 5 and y was 13. So let's plug in x. What is x? Negative 5 minus y, but what is y? 13. At that point, it's a subtraction problem that they could have given us on the front page. And again, if you don't need to do this adding the opposite, that's fine. If you know you're $5 in debt and then you go take away $13 more, you're $18 in debt. But if you're someone that's very methodical and like to use all those rules, the rule is keep the front number the same, negative 5. This changes to a plus, and then what's the opposite of 13? Negative 13. And then you know what to do when you add numbers of the same sign. You actually add. What's 13 plus 5? 18. And our answer will be negative 18 because they're both negative. On 12, it's very, very similar, except for we have this 3y happening. Do you remember what operation this is when two things are just shoved right next to each other? Multiplication. So when I plug in my y, I'm going to put like a little dot so I remember it's multiplication, all right? So I'm going to write this as 3 times y, or 3 times 9, minus negative 4. Is it okay to have these back to back? Not really. So what do we need to put around negative 4? Parentheses. Okay? If you don't do that, I'm probably not going to count you wrong, but just for future math classes, two signs can't be butted next to each other like that. So you always say, okay, this is negative 4 behind here, so let's put parentheses around it. All right, order of operations. We have two operations going on. We have multiplication and we have subtraction. Which one do we need to do first? Multiplication. What is 3 times 9? Use your fingers, use the 9 trick. What is it? 27. So we have 27 minus negative 4. Now the only operation is that subtraction. But again, using the rule that we learned earlier today is change the subtraction to addition. So this is 27 plus, and then change this to the opposite. What's the opposite of negative 4? And look at that, guys. It's changed to 2 positive numbers that we add like normal. I'm going to go over here because I got to carry and stuff. 4 plus 7 is 11. You guys get 31 there? Yeah. And it's going to be positive 31 because they're both positive. Not going too quick? Everybody's okay? Okay, good. It's hard to know because like sometimes people get it and then other people are like, I have no clue what you say and I don't want to say anything, you know. So again, always slow me down or feel free to rewatch this if you're like, oh, she went quick in class, but maybe I can watch it again. All right, 13 is just how can we put this to use in real life? The story problems, the word problems. The highest point in Asia is on the top of Mount Everest at a height of 29,028 feet above sea level. The lowest point in Asia is the Dead Sea, which is 1,312 feet below sea level. How much higher is Mount Everest than the Dead Sea? How much higher we are comparing? And do you remember what you need to do if you're comparing two values? Subtraction, right? If you want to compare my age with your age, we would subtract our ages, right? So comparing equals subtraction. So whenever you subtract, you're going to take the bigger number. So what's the highest we can be? 29,028 feet. Minus, what's the lowest we can be? 1,312 feet, but below sea level. So how do we show below sea level? Negative. Does that setup make sense to you guys? So we're going to, if that was just 1312 above sea level, you just take the 29,000 minus it, right? But since it's below sea level, we have to have that subtraction. Let's remember the rule. The first number stays the same, so 29,028 stays the same. The subtraction changes to addition, and you add the opposite of negative 1,312. It becomes positive. You got it. And at this point, guys, I can't add horizontally. So I'm going to go over here and just make sure you line them up from left to right, right? Excuse me, right to left, I should say. And then we'll just add and carry as we need. So 8 plus 2 is 10, carry your 1. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is, was that 4? 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 0 plus 3 is 3. Put my comma there. 9 plus 1 is 10, carry my 1. Does that look right, guys? Did you get 30,340? Yes, that's what I was going to say. 40 what? Feet. Are there any questions there? That word problem